What's up, folks, and welcome to the House of Aligned First Live. I've been told that I'm going to kind of drive the ship to start here. This session is called Sell Me Anything. Get off your head, Ryan. Come on. We're adults, all right? Being serious, we're selling. In this cheeky live, we're going to be talking about how you can sell pretty much anything using the right process and methodology, starting from scratch and figuring out how to get interest from a buyer, but then also trying to figure out how to move them through to becoming actually potentially buying your solution in the end as well, all while keeping the buyer in mind and not using those icky sales tactics we all don't like. So Maria and Ryan don't know exactly what they're going to be trying to sell. I'm going to be acting as a prospect today, and I'm going to surprise them with something in 3, 2, 1. This right here is called a priority pass card. It allows you to get into pretty much any airport lounge in the world, and it's kind of like an overarching membership. Mm-hmm. What I would like the two of you to try and sell to me today as a prospect, let's say I'm an HR or an operations person. I'm in one of those boring departments. No offense. First step, offend the prospect. I want you to try and sell me this membership for the employees on the team that travel. So you're selling it as a group benefit for the company, and they would allow all of their employees to get into any lounge nationwide, globally, and spend some time in lounge for free every single time. So I'm going to put this away now. Do you feel ready, or do you have any questions?
Yeah. So what problem does this actually solve for someone in HR? This is where I get kind of like, I may not even try to sell. I may walk out of here right now. The reason why,
No, it's fair.
The reason why is that, like, all right, when I think about selling something, there's a technical, maybe user pain. That is, one of the people here at Align spent 35 hours in an airport. 35 hours. If I had to spend that time one of those like dinky little like chairs, I would have cried, fetal position. I would have been like the whatever Tom Hanks in that movie where he's just like, I guess I'm just living here now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The terminal.
Yep.
But there's no business problem that I see, particularly for the HR person, other than kind of getting crap from the employees. But does it ever directly go back to the HR department? I've never complained to HR about being stuck in an airport.
So you bring up a good point right now, okay? And that is that when there's a seller, you go to work for a company and you don't really believe in the pain point. If there's not a pain point there, it's almost like maybe you shouldn't work for that company or try and sell that company if you don't believe in the product.
Red flag.
That's a red flag. When you don't believe there is a market fit for the product you're trying to sell. Is that what you're describing? Do you believe that it's the wrong persona? Or
I think it's the wrong persona.
Okay, all right. So who am I then?
I think you are C-level or VP that attends these events.
All right. I'm the CEO of a startup.
Okay.
I'm growing big time. I'm sending my team, my sales team, my marketing team. Heck, sometimes I even my
going?
CS team. I'm going myself as well. Yeah. I like to show face. I'm the CEO of a startup that has no vowels in its name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spell out Willikin right now with no vowels. Wiltkin. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm the CEO of Wiltkin, and we have 30 employees. I send my sellers, my marketers, my CS people all over the world, and I like to attend those events as well.
How often do you go on these events, Will?
I would say that on average, we're probably attending, having at least one person. I would say probably 4 events a month.
Yourself or? I
have a family and kids, so I can't go on every single one. I would like to. It's my company. I'm really proud of what I'm doing. But
so if you had to put your thumb on a number, like, would you say you
I'd probably get to half.
Events? Half? So 4 events, that's maybe 2 a month. You're looking at 24 a year that you're going on. Well, tell me, when you fly, how often are there like delays?
So I'm based in Canada, and if you looked in the news recently, Canada's airlines have been really messed up lately. Air Canada and WestJet have just been dropping the ball all over the shop. I remember I think it probably would have been January time. I was in Toronto Pearson Airport for 10 hours.
The reason why I asked that, and I appreciate that context, I recently read an article talking about flight delays. On average, flight delays in the past 6 months have been anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. Is that your experience where when a delay happens, you would say it's around that time range?
I would say so, yeah. Definitely, I'd say on average, at least 2 hours.
From my understanding, a lot of the priorities of an executive running a very fast-paced company that's growing rapidly, these events are important. To show face is important. However, there's a lot of other priorities that you're looking to do to scale the business appropriately. If you had to put like your top two on the line right now, like what are those priorities that you would be focusing on at that time?
As a company or as a CEO?
As a CEO.
So right now we're really big on scaling. I like to be involved in that process when it comes to hiring new employees. So I'm heavily involved in growing those teams, figuring out where we need the right people in the right teams, but also getting involved in those interview processes.
So with the scale, what is that helping you accomplish of hiring? Like, is that more focused on revenue? Where are you hiring right now?
We're hiring almost across the board. We've probably got a full marketing team right now.
Okay.
But we need a lot more sellers. And if we want to hit any of the kind of goals that we have on our roadmap, what we want to develop, the things we want to make our product do in the next year, we need to probably double the size of the engineering team.
What headcount do you need to get to cross the threshold of hitting your quota bookings to revenue right now?
Right. So if we could, so we probably have 10 engineers and a couple of sellers, and we probably need 3 times as many sellers and double the amount of engineers.
I'm sorry. So you said you had 3 sellers?
2 sellers.
2 sellers.
We need 6.
You need 6.
And that's 6 people who are doing the same as those 2 sellers are doing.
Okay, so that's 4 sellers. Average OTE around 200.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Okay. So if I'm getting that right, you are heavily focused on recruiting now. It's a big priority of yours. You are spending a good amount of time in that recruiting process. Each one of those sellers represents roughly $200,000 OTE throughout the year, which could, if we get a 2x OTE ratio or 3x OTE ratio, which would be kind of good unit economics.
Yeah. We aim for 4.
Okay, you aim for 4.
Hard.
So that's $800,000 per employee. You need to hire 4 of them, roughly. I'm not doing math right now.
Math.
8 times 4, 8 times 2.4 million in potential revenue. That's just the sales team. I'm getting that right?
Just sales team, yeah.
Okay.
I would argue that the engineering team is
probably more important for product roadmap and development
if we really want to carry on growing and expanding to new markets. Yeah.
Okay. I will go down that route, but for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna dissect you fully.
Yep.
You're saying about half the flights that you are getting on, you're getting delayed anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. Is that on average?
Yeah, I would say on average at least 2 hours if there is a delay, and those can range from anywhere from 2. And I think the longest one I did last year was 8, but the majority are around that 4-hour mark.
During work hours or off?
It depends on when the flight. Generally we want to try and be economic when we book these flights.
Some red eyes in there.
There are going to be some red, especially if it's the end of the week, right? We can get out on a Friday and get back to work the next day and sleep on the plane, then I'm going to win.
Okay. So, yeah, my quick math skills are not working as well as I would like them to right now. But from what I'm hearing, that based on these top priorities right now, these events, while extremely important for you to show face, continue to build that morale, you're doing anywhere from 24 of these in a year, which can delay you during work hours and some time off where you said you have a young family and you'd like to be around for them as well.
Yep.
Some sort of emotional impact there. I'm a good dad.
I like to think so.
There's level deep.
And then it's also taking hours in the day away from actually with it being within the recruiting process. Just in revenue alone, from what you're telling me, there's potentially $2.4 million on the table of making sure that recruiting is going smoothly and you're getting those people in. Have you ever experienced this process delaying, pushing out any of those hires or affecting that recruiting process at all?
I would say so, actually. Oftentimes when I book these interviews with candidates, as I said, I like to be involved in the hiring process. I do like to make sure that I'm present in some of the later steps. So oftentimes what I'll have is have a VP of revenue. He'll come in, we'll chat to a couple of the new sellers. We'll screen them. They'll meet a couple of other sellers on the team, the two that I mentioned. And then they'll come to a step with me and again, the VP of revenue, and we'll have another chat. And I like to also be involved in the last step where it's just me and them because I feel like that really helps me get to know them. When that meeting is booked, I like to book that around my flight schedules. So flight ends up being delayed, that often does mean that a meeting ends up getting pushed out, which means that could then have to take 2-3 days. My calendar's chock-a-block by that point. I can't book things the next day at this point.
Yeah.
So often it ends up pushing to the next
Could
week.
push it a couple weeks,
Yeah,
a week or so. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a huge amount. Do you believe that you actually need to be involved in that interview process? Or because you mentioned that you like to be. Do you believe it's actually necessary for that VP of revenue to make those hiring decisions correctly?
It's a good question, Ryan.
Get out of the interview process, Will. You're not neat enough.
Well, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
My VP of revenue has already hired a couple of people who I wasn't keen on. And I like to start the idea that if I hire the right person who I think's done the job before, I like to start trusting them. And then they can potentially lose some of that trust. And that's why I felt the need to get involved in these later stages, because they brought a couple of people who I personally didn't think were going to work out, and it turns out they didn't work out. I feel like if I hadn't been involved in that process, then maybe we wouldn't have ended up hiring that person. We would have hired someone a little bit more appropriate for the role.
How long did they last in the role?
Probably one was less than a couple of weeks.
Less than a couple of weeks.
Another one, maybe we held out a little bit longer, but generally with sellers, you can pretty quickly tell if they don't make it up.
Even a couple of weeks with onboarding costs, sunk costs into salary, benefits, and that, you're probably losing to 10 to 20K on just that 1 month of that individual seller being in the team.
Let's not rub it in.
Not to mention, hey, it's not my team. Listen, Will, I know I'm digging in a lot of areas right now, but the reason why I'm asking all of this is because of the nature of flights is difficult. And having an area where you're able to securely take these meetings and not have to delay a week or two out, not only could potentially provide, and this is what I want to validate with you, could potentially provide you to not have to push those weeks out, but also allows you to get involved in the process where sometimes that you haven't been involved in, a wrong hire might have been made. So what we do and provide at Premier Plus Airport thingy is we have a quiet business lounge within each of the airports in any of the, not only domestic, but international flights. Since you're doing a lot of international flights, what I'd like to propose is to show you a little bit about what we offer there, because I don't know, I've never been in one. And I'm going in there. Should we break right now?
We can break right now.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Let's dissect that.
Let's dissect that.
That went all over the place.
Because that was, I understand I've given you a freaking hard thing to sell there. And whilst I was trying to be an okay prospect, it's also not like something you've ever sold before. And often part of being a seller is learning your buyers, what problems they face, what problems you solve for them, impact those problems would typically take. So you took it very creative, and we ended up going down a few rabbit holes there, but I liked where you were going with it. Maria, what were your thoughts?
I really liked it. You were able to quantify the challenge of layovers, and so I think you dug in real deep. I think it was excellent. Very three layers deep there. You got to that emotional pain, business impact, situational areas. So
it's funny, like I appreciate that compliment, but I feel like as I was going through it, I would hate to be a seller at that company. Because I'm trying to connect, I'm grasping at straws. Because the more I thought about it, I'm like, he needs to believe that him not being in an airport lounge where it's a little quieter is actually going to make the difference on that hire. Or it's actually going to make the difference on, So as I was going through my own ROI calculation, I was like, ooh, I got something. And I think as sellers, we do that a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like, is this
the buyer buying it?
Is this the best way to solve it?
Yeah.
I would have tried to tie it to a different pain. The one that I was thinking, which is very close to
I'm sorry
yours.
for just taking over.
Oh my God, no. The one that
I'm going to give Maria a shot to do a cold call version of that anyway.
Oh gosh.
What you just kind of did was more like, I would say, discovery call, right?
Yes.
So prospecting would be a different approach to Charlie. So I'd be curious. But anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. So the route I was going to take it down was that, okay, you'll push these interviews out a week later, 2 weeks later at sometimes. Like, has there ever been a situation where you've done that and you've missed out on a great hire?
That's a good shout.
There's so many angles to explore in something like this. I guess the biggest thing that I go back to is just going back to, is this product the thing that is going to address that the best?
Right.
Like, I almost want to like get in with the CEO and be like, well, what else have you done to address this interview? And that's why I said, do you believe you need to be involved as opposed to want to be? Involved?
That was a really good question. I really liked that.
I didn't buy it for a second there. Yeah. You were like, I'd like to be. I'm like, that's not why you're going to buy my product.
I think that's where you can take it from, like, persuading, which you didn't do. You did it from like qualifying them in or out with that question. And so I think that sort of thing would bring a ton of credibility.
I really like it when I see sellers actually defending, in a way, the status quo. So it's not selling the product, but they're saying, is this the best way to solve it? Like a question I heard recently.
Do you really need to do anything?
Someone said, what's stopping you from, and then solving the problem yourself in this way? What's stopping you from just not being involved in all these interview processes? What's stopping you from just, not going to all these conferences? Do you really need to be there? What's stopping you from, so when you start defending the status quo, you actually get on the buyer's side, and you're no longer coming to a point where I'm trying to convince you of doing something. I'm just saying, like, we're having a chat one-to-one. It sounds like you have a problem here, but like, do you need to have that problem? What's stopping you from just not doing that or getting involved or doing that yourself? So like one that I've used at Lavender recently was actually like, what's stopping you from just sending more emails? They were like, our reply rate's low. Oh, what's stopping you from just reaching out to more people? They're like, well, we've tried that. And we've also tried doing more cold calls. And then you suddenly uncover that, we've tried everything in the book. We're desperate here. We need to do something, because otherwise we're just not making enough money and our business is going to fail, right? And that almost, in a way, gets you having that really good conversation with a buyer, and then no longer like trying to defend against you. You've actually tried to like defend them not changing in a way.
I love that.
I think with this particular product, which I don't even know if they have that product, by the way, I made that up in my butt, right? So there's number
Sold
one.
Me.
We're making up products. We're making up products that no one wants sometimes. But I think I don't like to get too technical on like figuring out how they're doing things today, because you can sometimes get in this really technical talking like, oh, so when you update your CRM, how are you doing that today? And how do the reps do that? And then you're not really getting any meat on the bone. I'd be curious to know what the CEO does when the delays happen. What do they then do? They just sit around the airport? What do they do then? Oh, I go to Tim Hortons. Is the Wi-Fi good? No, it's trash. What do you do with that time then? I read a book. What could you be doing that time? So I don't like giving time back, but what that could have been done with that time instead may have been. But that's the thing. That's why it's important to know when you have a product, you really need to think about the main problems and challenges that you solve and the ones that have the most weight and buyers care about the most before you go and start selling it. Because most products solve dozens of challenges, but which are the one or two that the buyer actually gives a crap about?
I think this is something I see as lost art in discovery is a lot of people don't ask belief-based questions. And this might get, I don't know, maybe this is YouTube controversial, but like, let's say,
controversial mean? What's
let's say COVID,
it's not this type
new
of live
COVID strain comes out and it is a 99% death. 99% death.
Yep.
I guarantee you 20 to 30% of the population still wouldn't get a vaccine or wear a mask. And let's not go into whether right or wrong. The only thing I want to bring out of that is that they believe that the likelihood of them getting it might be high, but they don't believe that the impact is going to hit them, or that the impact is as high as it is. The same way with during previous lockdowns, a lot of people believed they would get it. They just didn't believe the impact was wrong.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, what if you crank it up? I still think belief is such a strong driver. So I needed to figure out with you, do you believe you need to be in that process? And do you believe that if you were delayed on those flights, something bad is happening because of it?
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, then I can try to figure out if you have the problem and I can solve it.
Yeah.
But if they don't believe it, like sales training, I had a guy like want to book a meeting with me, and he came in, and I'm like, my first question, why do you believe you need sales training? And he ended up pouring out, I don't think discovery is good. I'm like, okay, where the deal's falling out of the funnel. We went a little bit into process, but I had to get why he believed external sales training was going to do a goddamn thing for him and his team.
Mhm.
Because without that prerequisite, I don't care how bad their business is struggling. If they don't think that outside sales training can solve it, then I have nothing to sell them, because they're never going to move forward with me.
Well, they have to agree. It's like agreement on the problem has to come first.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, I'm going to do something.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, now what are my potential ways to solve it? And then it's like, okay, now this is how I specifically can help with this problem. Because a lot of times we'll go and do that before we've agreed that there was a problem that needs to be solved, agreed on the solution, and then gotten into like details of features and benefits and pricing and all of that good stuff that we lose deals on.
Hey, we're not doing good discovery. Perfect. I got the perfect solution with the bet. It's like one rep that I hired from Salesforce, an AE, great seller. But he said, he was like, most people that work at Salesforce, they'll say, hey, a client will come in and say, hey, we need a CRM. And the rep will say, perfect, we're the best. Let me talk to you about the CRM. They might ask questions, but he said the reason why he was setting quota and doing differently than anybody else was he would say, why do you believe you need a CRM? And he would find out that they don't just need a CRM, they need Marketing Cloud, they need this, they need that. They have problems in multiple areas. And then there's other times where they're like, you could get Pipedrive. Like, you don't need Salesforce. Are you a good enough person / seller to do it that way?
Yes, but you have to be in it for like the long game. If that's the case.
Exactly.
Because then they'll come back to you when they are ready, or they refer your friends to you. They'll be at a different company in a year from now and needing to buy software. And you're going to be the first person that they go to because they trust you.
You get to hold this now.
You get to hold the special piece. What's it? You're the king.
The queen? I don't know.
I'll be the queen.
And I'm the king.
Back off.
I think
this.
Bishop.
I think there's a reason why people buy, and there's a reason why people buy a certain thing. And the reason why people buy something is because if they don't buy it, they're going to be worse off for it. And a lot of sellers miss that part. That's like, okay, if you don't buy this, what's going to happen? What's the absence of my product look like? And get deep on that. Okay, if you don't do anything about this, what's going to happen? It's like the cost of inaction. That's a buzzword I see a lot on LinkedIn these days. The second piece is, okay, what's actually causing that problem in the first place? And how easily is that thing to solve? And if you don't address what's causing the problem, then there's no way to prove that your solution is the best for them. Or if maybe, like, if I told you,
1000%.
Yeah, if like someone came to me looking for a CRM, and they're like, I need to track my sales team's activities. What's causing that problem? Well, right now we're not doing that, or right now the sales reps are lying about their activities. Well, what's causing them to lie about their activities? Well, because if they don't hit their goals, I will reprimand them. Okay. Is that the cause then? Or is the cause here that you're managing your team from fear-based, or maybe the KPIs are too high? Is the problem that you really need, is the CRM going to solve that problem? Probably not. Adding Salesforce into that mix probably won't change anything.
We're going to buy you some yoga classes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're going to do.
So figure out, like, okay, is the problem worth doing something for? But also, like, is the solution that you're selling, and this is in the buyer's best interest, I think it's where a lot of sellers live. I think there's two reasons. One, sellers aren't confident enough to do this. But also, I don't think their leaders enable them to do this. I don't think leaders enable their sellers to say, hey, I'm not sure this is a fit. And I think that's probably bad leadership.
Because the goal is to book a meeting. The goal is to get the sale. And like when you have that mentality going into every conversation that you have, then even if they are a bad fit, even if there is a better option for them, then you're just set up to fail, honestly.
This is the one thing where, and I'll shout him out, Keenan, he drilled this into me. And like, if there was ever a time where a buyer was not going on the journey with us, or was not giving us information, or like it just wasn't the best possible thing, like if they came to us, they're like, hey, we know about it, we have this problem, we already defined it, we're just going to give you $50,000. He'd be like, absolutely not, unless you let us run this correct, like do a real process,
because that's going to be a pain in the ass to manage.
Yep.
Oh my god.
You don't know shit.
It is, but
they're going to be annoyed.
Geez, it changed the way I think about everything. And like, I almost have more fun teasing a buyer of why are we even here? Why should you do anything? Do you really want to invest in something that you haven't really thought through? But I think the biggest thing is that there's two decisions that are made in every single sale: the decision to change, and then the decision to change with you, or the part that's left out, or not with you. So personally, this guy with the recruiting, there's millions of other things I think I could potentially sell him that could help with it. But I don't think a lounge pass is it.
No. And maybe that's like closing that door off, saying maybe the recruitment isn't the problem. Maybe like the fact that you're sat at Tim Hortons for 6 hours not doing any work at all, and then you get on a plane where you also don't have Wi-Fi, not doing any work, you're almost doubling the amount of time that you're out of action.
Reprioritizing how many events you're going to. Like I could have also gone the route of like, well, what do you accomplish, or what you look to accomplish at every single one of these events? Is it just to show face? Is there a certain amount of pipeline you're driving? Are there customers you're meeting with? Does it help you like create your product development track record? Are you speaking to the market? Are you getting any, like, there's so many freaking questions you can ask, and reps usually ask like 3 questions. They're like, let me show you a demo. Like,
and there sometimes doesn't need to be a business impact too. Like for him, it might just be like uncomfortable chairs and it hurts his back and he has to go to get.
I hope there's a business impact, but yeah, I think emotional impact could probably have driven him at least into a demo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it also depends on the context. So in that process, I didn't find I know we're doing an example here, so I wasn't going to be an ass about it.
It wasn't good.
Well, no, I thought it was great. Well, I thought it was really good.
So a lot of sellers get in this mindset that like, oh, asking questions is going to upset buyers. And there are a lot of buyers who are really frustrated by the fact that if they go on a website, they click request a demo, and they get on a call with a buyer and they get asked a million questions. It's not just the fact that they ask those questions, it's the quality of those questions. And during that process just then, maybe there was 1 or 2 questions like, okay, what's this got to do with this, right? But the quality of the questions overall were enough folks to do with me, and they weren't like, okay, well, how much do you think this is costing you? Because that is going to lead me to like,
what do you think this is impacting?
Yeah,
I hate that.
Those general questions are the problem. And
I'm trying to get the math from you. Anytime you were like, oh, well, I do a few. I'm like, what is a few? I'm keep on trying to get you to articulate any vagary that you were saying to me.
Yeah. Wait, two things. One of them that I wanted to point out, because I think you did it really well, was like when you got into that flow of asking a lot of those situational questions that felt like, all right, like what is this all leading to? I feel like you could pick up on that. And what you did was you did that like disclaimer of, hey, the reason I'm asking you is X. And like that just shows self-awareness and like allows it softens it, right? And it allows him to be like, okay, it like sets the expectation almost. Like, okay, I'm asking these for a reason, not just because he's going down a list of questions that he must ask me.
I call these like discovery clusters, where if you get to a point, you ask a couple questions, you're going a little bit deeper, and you get to a point where you can be like, all right, so if I'm understanding this correctly, you're going on 2 flights a month, can be delayed anywhere for a couple hours. Your other priorities are that you really want to be involved in the recruiting process. Each one of those reps is about 200K OTE. You want 4X to OTE to earnings ratio off of them. It's about $800,000, $2.4 million. Am I right on that? And you're like, yeah, that's pretty close. You don't need to be spot on. Yeah. And I'm like laughing because the math was not mathing for me. For a second.
We don't have a notepad.
We're all a bit jet lagged right now on the West Coast here.
Great at discovery.
But that's what the style of discovery is nice. I think the product that we're doing here is interesting.
I'd be curious to know if maybe we took down a different path.
Why
don't we just do one more? That's maybe a little bit just of a less of a wild card.
Okay.
Do you want to sell me this pen? Should we try that? Do you want me to sell you the pen? Do you want Maria to try and sell you the pen?
I think I want
Maria. Why don't you be an SDR and I'll be an AE and you book a meet with Ryan and I'll try and close it. I'll try and get some next steps and move this.
Wait. I like to be like the pulling out the good stuff.
Okay. All right.
You want me? Okay.
I like to pull it out.
Right.
But wait.
Do you want me to be an SDR then? Shall I SDR and UAE?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you're the prospect.
He's the outbound prospect.
Outbound prospect.
You've never heard of us. All right.
Never heard you guys ever.
We're on a joint cold call.
Give me a second. No. I'm going to book the meeting, and you're immediately going to have the meeting with Ryan.
Okay.
Of the demo, okay?
I love it.
And we'll start there. Just give me a second. All
You
right.
balance?
Can I balance? Get it? Will.
Oh, beautiful.
Will balance. Look at that. Hey, Will, how you doing?
You must have a flat head too.
Apparently.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Oh, the pressure's on. I feel bad for you now that I was giving you all this. All right. Do you want to do a ring ring hello?
Okay.
Sure.
Cool.
Ring ring.
Hello.
G'day, Ryan.
No.
Was it a good day?
I'll cut the end.
Oh, killed
It
me
was
there.
not a good day.
Hello.
G'day, Ryan. It's Will Aiken here from BIC. I'm in the middle of some research, and I was hoping you might be able to help me out a little bit. You got a minute?
Yeah. Will, what's this about?
Well, look, I happen to notice that you recently opened a couple of new office locations in the Northwest. So
Yeah.
I want to reach out to you and have a quick little cheeky chat because a lot of folks are finding when they open those locations, they are having a hard time supplying them at an effective cost and getting the right supplies in. How far along in those office openings are you at the moment?
Well, I mean, at this point, we have furniture. We're hiring an office manager.
Okay.
And usually, I guess that's how we've been going about it. You said you're with BIC?
Yeah, BIC. Well known for the razors and the pens.
Oh, okay.
The reason I want to ask, you said you were hiring an office manager.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Listen, I gotta hold up operations in a couple other of our locations. So yes, we're opening new, but I don't always do all the staffing in that regard. So I need someone to come and just kind of basically run ops and make sure that we're off to a good start when we launch them.
That's interesting. Would this be your first office manager hire, or is this adding to a group existing?
I have one for my home office, so she usually runs ops here, but I need another. We're scaling.
Sure. Ryan, I know I've called you in the middle of your day here and I'm interrupting you. The reason I'm asking this is because I'm speaking to a lot of folks who are opening locations right now, and those folks are facing a couple of big problems when they actually go to open those offices. First one is they're having a real hard time identifying cost-effective suppliers for supplying those offices with all the equipment they need. The second one is they haven't been able to identify any suppliers. They're introducing new employees who are starting those offices, who are getting those offices, and not having all the equipment, supplies, pens that they need. Would you say those are? I don't suppose you know anyone. I don't suppose either of those are challenges that you think you're facing in opening those into new offices.
I mean, potentially. I'm usually left out. I'm not focused as much on supply and kind of getting stuff into the office. This will really be probably part of the scope of what I'm going to have the office manager focus on.
Sure.
But I mean, it's potential.
When are you hoping to have someone on board by?
I have an offer out right now. Should be hopefully signed within the next week, and then we'll get that individual loaded up and on the way.
Sure. So would it be fair to say that person would be onboarded within the next 2-3 weeks? Assuming they accept the offer.
I need them to get going right now. We have a deadline that we have to hit to get these offices open. So I need them up, ready, and start getting the things staffed ASAP.
Start getting things staffed ASAP. So when you say start getting things staffed ASAP, what are the first couple of things you're hoping they're going to address when they're actually onboarded?
So they're gonna have to basically just map out the processes of that location, which we do have a playbook for.
Okay.
But they're gonna need to hire the other staff, make sure that everything's running smoothly there. They're going to have to, as you mentioned, get supplies for the office, make sure that it's up and functioning, so that we can be doing business in the near future.
Sure. So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're opening those two new office locations, and you're hoping to have an office manager in place within the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
The first few things they're going to do is set up those office locations, make sure they're operating effectively, including having all the right equipment, and also getting those places staffed. Would that be right?
Correct.
Look, as I mentioned before, some of the biggest challenges folks find when they open up those office locations is they might end up hiring people before they've got their office set up and running.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd hate for it to happen is, you get the office manager in place, they start hiring people, those people can start those offices and they don't have it they need to actually start doing their job effectively. Do you mind if I ask how many folks are actually going to be working in this office?
About 10 total by the time they're fully staffed.
Okay. Well, look, what were those 10 people doing, may I ask?
Hey, yeah, now I'm making stuff
Yeah,
up.
no, I know. I'm getting a bit deep in this as well.
I'm not a VP of ops, so I struggle with this. We make pencil sharpeners. No, I'm just kidding.
But Ryan,
Wouldn't
it
that
sounds
be
as though
wild?
you're opening this office, you're going to have a new office manager on board in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Would it be unfair to maybe have a conversation when that person's on board with yourself and them to talk about some potential supply options for that new office location?
Sure, that works.
Jeff down the road is having a great time with us.
Let's
stop there because
let's stop there real quick. So two things. Don't worry. I was throwing out a couple vague points for you. You did a great way of keeping me in line. I like that you threw out here the two main challenges that we're seeing people face. I was struggling to see where it was going to connect to there. And I think where you were really going to be able to help me as a business owner is keeping operational costs down low and making sure that the speed of which that they get there is going to help me to get my operations up and running.
Yeah.
The thing that I wish you asked is when does the office need to be up and running? Not when does the person need to be hired? And
that's right.
Why? What's driving that timeline?
Yeah.
You're setting up these offices. I'm assuming you're sinking costs into it. When does it need to be running? When you're hiring this individual, have you thought is part of the criteria that you're hiring them for related to them keeping operational costs at a certain level? Have you figured out what spend per office you're doing there? And the reason why I'm asking that, Will, is that we've been able to reduce operational costs on things like pens, erasers, all this stuff by roughly 10% on average from some of our clients that are expanding. If that's something that would be interesting to that office manager, I'd love to chat with you to validate some of that. So when they come in, they can hit the ground running to make sure you hit your dedeadline of getting those offices open.
Ooh,
woo!
woo!
It's like, so I want to try and tie it into that.
Yeah, you're right. I think that the theme this keeps coming back to is already having an idea of those challenges before you pick up the phone and start talking to someone.
Yeah.
Because I was improving like, what? How
improving all my answers.
Yeah.
Too,
so like you can ask all the questions in the world, but like having the idea of the 2, 3, even 5 challenges, but mainly I'd like to try and keep it limited to the 2 that you can link the office opening to.
Yeah, that the one question too that I wanted that seemed pretty like general, and I think that's an easy way to get into those more organic follow-up questions, which he says like up and running. Like, how do you define what up and running? Like, what does that look like? What sort of behaviors and things they need to accomplish before that happens?
Hey, what was driving the expansion of those offices? You're opening a couple new locations. We're expanding business. What does expanding business mean? Like,
if it had been a cold
one of those offices,
you probably would have brushed me off at probably question number 4 because I wasn't being specific enough on what those challenges were or where I was going with those questions. You'd be like, what all right, this is a waste of my time, And I have to be real with that. That is because
we made both of these into discovery calls because it's more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun, let's be real. But like a cold call is normally like you've got 3-5 minutes, get some interest, find like a light, something that they're gonna go, oh, how do you help with that? Hey, would it make sense for us to chat and maybe see if that we could help with that out, right? But what we end up doing is going a little bit deeper in the funnel. So Maria, I actually stole your job on that one. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I'm grateful that you stole my job on that one because I was not seeing the value there.
The reason why I love this style of repeating their words and dissecting their words and getting the confirmation of their words is really about like the buyer-centric nation of it. And like this kind of goes back to when we talk about like aligned. The reason why when I was messing around with the product, I loved it is that like you may talk to that CEO, but then I'm going to talk to the office manager and they're going to miss that conversation. They're not going to know what points we already focused on, the data that we pulled in.
As well.
100%.
Yeah.
They might even have like preferred. Like, I don't work with Vic. I've looked at you guys in the past at my last 2 jobs.
Yes. It's interesting, like making it as easy as possible for a buyer to get through it, because I think some discoveries can be uncomfortable. They're the interrogation. Hey, Will, where are you going? Who are you with? It's called the interrogation, like police questions.
Well, I think another gap too is that handoff to the AE. So say you would have had that that cold call, you would have gotten all that great information from him for me to be able to take into my discovery call super prepared.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's another thing too, that like it's not really talked about as much when you think of like buyer enablement and the buyer's journey is like ensuring that handoff is seamless, because you're going to look, like you don't have your SHIT together.
If I booked a meeting with you as the AE and you jump on a call with Ryan and ask him 3 of the same, like 12 questions I just asked him, he's like, this is a waste of my time. I've already.
That is the number one complaint I get from BDRs.
Yeah.
Like, especially good ones.
So frustrating.
They're like bad BDRs never bring that up.
For the
but
BDR.
the really good ones are always like,
And the buyer
I can't
as well.
believe they re-asked the questions. Yeah, the buyer too.
Like, oh, how big's your team? You could have Googled that. Oh, who's coming on board in a few weeks? Yeah. I told your SDR that.
What do you guys do again?
These are the things that actually like buyers like. Oh, I hate sitting through discovery calls. They don't hate sitting through good discovery calls. They hate sitting through qualification calls, repeating the same information over and over again, feeling like they're wasting their time because the person hasn't done enough prep work, hasn't listened to the call, hasn't done a handover, hasn't done their research.
I mean, buyers give us the answers to the test. LinkedIn State of Sales Report, number 1 trait that buyers value in salespeople. Guess what it is? Yeah, no.
Discounts.
Research, knowing
them, active listening, like just feeling heard and understood. And so if you can't, like, that dropping the ball on that process is one way to make them feel not heard and understood. And also one of the things that I wanted both of you guys did really well in your calls is just like, I think that's another reason to summarize, hey, am I tracking? Like, am I hearing you right? This is what I've heard, especially when you get that one prospect on the phone and they've told you so much information and you're like, okay, let me just thank you so much for all that information. Thank you for sharing. Like, let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Am I hearing you right? And then it's like, okay, you get this validation that you're tracking. And then they're like, okay, cool. I feel heard. I feel understood. There's trust there. They get me. They get what I'm trying to accomplish. And even like, side note to that too, helping them connect the dots for themselves, what the operational cost is of doing nothing and like what the risks are, because they might not even realize it, right? They're focused on so many different other pieces.
Yes. It goes back to tell me the impact. It's like, well, I just gave you all the units you need to make that impact.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to do the quick math together.
Yeah.
And that's apparently my phrase of the day, quick math.
Quick math.
But it's really
2 + 2 is
4.
Good job. Good job, Ryan. You passed the test. I think we did.
Big shock.
Big shock. Quick math.
That's.
I think that's pretty much it. So I mean, like,
all right,
we had 2. I would say we actually arguably, and again, it comes up in prep work. We did 2 exercises and we probably didn't do it. As good of a job as we could have done.
You all did great. I'm very proud of both of you.
Thank you.
It's the first time Ryan and I have ever done
I'm impressed.
together.
Dear Maria, come in.
We listened to that.
But like, I think the main takeaways are like knowing the challenges you solve, asking the right questions and actually listening to responses and asking the next logical question that comes from that. The more you do that, the more practice you get, the more you know which question you're actually going to ask.
Yeah.
So generally, mine was in the right place, but maybe if we had a thought a little bit ahead of time, okay, maybe if they're facing one of these 3 challenges, that's if I can help them. And knowing the right questions to actually uncover those challenges is the part that makes a difference. I think people can sell anything. Probably needs a little bit more thought than what we might have given it there.
I don't think people can sell anything.
You think? Okay.
That's why I went,
as
soon as I went in, when you said the HR, I'm like.
Anything that's decent. What I mean is a good
anything
seller
that solves a problem.
Can sell anything that solves a problem.
To the person that's experiencing that problem.
Yeah.
And that you're you're potentially the right thing for it. So I almost hate this like Wolf of Wall. It's not Wolf of Wall. It's actually Jordan Belfort's like, no. If you don't hit the right, it's like Grant Cardone, and I'm starting wildfires here.
Oh man!
But
Tag him.
Grant Cardone's like, anything can be sold. You just like talk to him quick enough. Like, I'm like, no. You're never gonna sell me. You are
Oh, boy.
never going to sell me. Pick some. I'm never gonna buy a mountain bike. You're never gonna sell me a mountain bike. I'm never gonna mountain bike. Elliptical. Big, but never a mountain bike. It's just not gonna happen. So I don't care how good you are at asking questions, at talking to me, at all these things. I'm never gonna buy it because it does not solve a problem for me. I do not want to solve it that way. So it's, once again, back to your circle, full circle, that comment. Know your buyer, know the problems that they experience, be able to identify and actually listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And walk away if it's not a good fit, right? The goal should not be to book a damn meeting, right? Because he's never going to buy a mountain bike.
If he's got his pens, and if I've got my employees in the freaking, Air Canada Maple Leaf Lounge already, guess what? Why? The problem is solved. If there's no problem, there is never going to be a sale. So why try and force that thing to happen? That's where I think we'll be getting our way a lot.
Manipulation.
Then it's trying to manipulate someone that's not in their best interest.
An Eskimo does not need ice.
Wait, so what do you think the goal
these phrases
should be?
are all,
What should the goal be then? If it's not to book a meeting, if it's not to close the deal,
solve
knowing
a problem, help people.
Identify if someone has a problem. If they have a problem, try and help them with it. If they don't, why waste your and their time trying to do that? And you're just going to frustrate them. They're going to ghost you. And then you're going to follow up them 27 times. And then they reply to you saying you are a stalker. And then you're going to doubt yourself. And you're going to do that 20 times. You have a pipeline full of nothing but hot air. And you're probably going to lose your job.
17% close rates, y'all. That's what happens.
3% close
well,
rates.
That's all right.
3%.
Like 17.
I thought 17.
17 is like in a.
A lot of SaaS companies sweating by you saying that's low.
17? That'd be amazing if we had that.
No.
I'd be aiming for like 25, 30.
You should be winning more than you're losing.
Oh,
yeah. Well, if you're targeting the right market and the problem is very existent, I agree. But I think there's a lot of companies that are selling things that don't solve a big enough problem, and they're targeting the wrong people, and they're just throwing a lot of crap at the wall, and then here we are.
Well, I don't know how long.
That's all for today, folks.
That's all for today, folks. The first live session, the House of Aligned, with a jet-lagged couple of folks. I think we did pretty well. I hope the points of that came out all right. We got dinner now. Actually, I'm glad I checked my phone. We have a text. And we're going to be going live on this account, on Aligned, and we're going to be putting out a lot of other content on our own social media profiles, on our on the Aligned company page, on the Aligned YouTube channel. I think some stuff's going to be coming out as well. So be sure to subscribe, check out the webpage, join as many of these sessions as possible. Let's hope they get more valuable as time goes on. I'd like to think that although. Thanks for watching. That's it.